You know, I suspected a day was gonna come when I was gonna start feeling nostalgic about things. I used to always say that I don't really get nostalgic because I think most people, at least it seemed to me, like when people talked about things that made them nostalgic, that nostalgia usually came from a place of wanting to go back to a time when you were happier. Like, it seemed like so many people who are obsessed with nostalgia properties are people who felt like their childhood was happier than their adulthood is. And I never felt that way. I feel like everything's gotten much better, you know? I mean, if you listen to the previous podcast, the Depression Chamber, you know exactly why. I was pretty miserable up until my 20s, and now I feel great. But nostalgia's not that linear, I don't think. And I think maybe I was just still too young to really feel nostalgia about a lot of things. Because, you know, obviously, most of the things I'm nostalgic about from the past are the good memories I do have. You know, they're the things that helped me get through all of those tough times. So they still have that impact of, like, you know, bringing a smile to my face to think back on how much these things meant to me back at the time. But right now, I have been in like an almost downward spiral of nostalgia. That's maybe an overdramatic way of putting it, but lately it's like, you know, I just played through Pokemon Sun and Moon, and Pokemon's always a nostalgia thing, you know, because it was a huge part of my childhood, much more so than I think. I mean, Pokemon makes most people nostalgic because they're like, oh yeah, I was really into that for like a year. No, for me, it's like that was what my life was for 4 years, you know. As a kid, and it's not that it's ever completely gone away, and in fact in recent years it's been even bigger because of especially this year with Pokemon Go coming out and all these Nuzlockes happening and stuff, and you know, it felt kind of natural to play through Pokemon Sun, whereas with X and Y it was kind of like this whole return to Pokemon. But nonetheless, it's still a nostalgia thing. You know, me and Victor have been recording Digibros. I think the first episode of Bomberman will be out before this podcast, so you'll see that, you know, we've been playing this old N64 game, which Digibros is usually old games. We usually play classics, you know, but we're getting back into that. I've been listening to a lot of old music, like music that I used to listen to when I was younger, because this year I just kind of got sick of all the music I had. Because basically, I think I've talked about this a couple podcasts ago, maybe on the first Decompression Chamber, that, like, you know, a couple years ago I'd had a hard drive failure, so most of what is on my computer is whatever was on my phone, which is just mostly newer stuff or stuff that I got into in the last few years, and I've had a pretty consistent input of like new bands and new stuff to listen to until this year. There's been barely anything I really liked this year. It's been a real rough year for music for me. So I've been looking back a lot. I've been downloading a lot of the old discographies of the bands I used to listen to all the time, you know, sort of getting back into these old bands, remembering how much I liked these records and why, even though most of it is very nostalgia, you know. And even the other stuff I'm listening to that is stuff that I didn't listen to as a kid is still older music. So, you know, lots of older, more nostalgic tunes going by. And then I've also been looking more and more to my old work, like, because, you know, lately I've entered this extreme high productivity sort of frame of mind where I'm constantly putting out videos and vlogs and all this other stuff and looking at all this new shit. And I feel like on some level I've become kind of a machine, you know, like I just kind of churn out product and it's just ideas. Here's an idea, that's a video. Here's an idea, that's a video. And there's a lot less like artistry to it. There's less of that open-minded creativity of like expressing my innermost feelings and thoughts, you know, which a lot of my older work was exceedingly personal. And I don't know whether it's a good thing or not, because like my current self kind of cringes at a lot of it. A lot of it's like, oh god, why did I have to try, like, why did I feel like every little thing that was important to me had to be out there, you know, even if some of it's gross or weird. But then I kind of look at a lot of the stuff that I'm a fan of, and a lot of it's like that, you know. I guess it's only weird because it's me, but so much of what I consume is like grossly personal and intense and in your face, you know. So maybe I'm missing out on some level by the fact that now that I finally have an audience who could appreciate those things, you know, those aspects of myself. I've sort of gotten that audience by not approaching those subjects, and I haven't had the desire to approach those subjects again. So it's kind of an odd sense of progression there. Like I feel like my 20-year-old self would be kind of disappointed that my content now is so kind of clean and straightforward. And I mean, not that it's totally that. I'm still pretty, you know, fairly out there, I think. I still make weird stuff every now and then, but the kind of shit I made when I was younger was so much more like gross. So what really brought me into this is that I finally, and I hope this is also out on my Reddit. I didn't want this to be a wide release, but I recorded an audiobook of the book that I wrote in 2010, which is very bad. It's not as bad as I expected, which is why I decided to do an audiobook of it. I thought the ideas were interesting, and that some of it was kind of okay, and I really just want closure on the whole thing. I want to finally be able to, like, you know, not think about the story all the time. But the irony, of course, is that reading through it again just reawakened all my memories about it, and it reminded me of, like, what I was like back then, and, like, what things I cared about, and I started thinking about all these characters again, and, like, who they were and why, you know, a lot of stuff I'd forgotten. Like, so much of what's in this book, because I never read the book, so much of it is stuff that was, like, so typical of me at the time and is not now, and it's weird to, like, feel that sort of dualism or dichotomy or something. Not sure what word I'm looking for, but at the same time, it's kind of dragging me in. Like, it's reminding me of things that I used to feel, and, like, sort of prodding me to feel those things again. Like, hey, didn't you care a lot about this subject, you know? But I don't now, so it's very jarring and strange, and, like, just being surrounded with so much nostalgia stuff, like, my mind is trying to rush back to this time, and if I had to over-explain it, and I don't know that this is really the case, maybe it's just a coincidence, but I do feel like maybe there's some yearning on my part to return to when I was more artistically minded, when I was more expressive, and more, like, trying to feel something deeper or more romantic than what I do now, because I've just become such a machine. I've become such a content just, you know, crank. Like, now it's just every day I've got some kind of vlog or some kind of podcast. I do so many back-to-back podcasts that I can't even, like, I can't edit them fast enough. Like, the reason this episode is delayed is just that I was working on so many other things that there was no room for a decompression podcast. Like, I'm finally, as of probably when this is coming out, I've probably started releasing these Let's Plays. I have a whole month of Let's Plays. I have, you know, 12 episodes of Bomberman, and we're probably going to finish that game and schedule it for the rest of the month, and, like, 15 plus episodes of Wario Land 4 with me and Devu. So those are all coming out now, and I had those sitting on my computer for a while because I couldn't edit them because I was doing too many other things. I have my 3-hour commentaries I release at the end of the month. I edited one of those. I edit the PCP, and I'm on it every week. I don't edit the pub crawl, but I'm on that every week. You know, I've got this podcast now. I guest on people. I guested on Mumkey. It was like the last 3 days were we did a Pokemon PCP, that was 2 hours. Then the next day I guessed it on Mumkey's thing, which was an hour. And then the next day I guessed it on Pub Crawl, which is an hour. And, like, just doing those 3 back to back, it's like every day I had to be prepared for, you're gonna spend an hour doing a podcast today, in between editing other podcasts and having vlog ideas. And then I'm also working on, like, this hour-long video that I've been fucking putting off constantly because it's kind of a pain in the ass to edit, and it's not that great. So, like, it's like a way too big of a video for the level of quality that it is, you know, that I just kind of don't feel like editing. And then I'm also editing the audiobook, which is even less of high quality. Like, it's painful because it's bad. Like, editing, putting so much effort into something that is bad is painful. It's like, you know, I'm fucking sitting there trying to make sure that I add enough gap, like, because I don't want it to be, you know, shitty. But it's hard to like time out how long should the gaps be between me reading each sentence in an audiobook. What would make for a comfortable listening experience of this terrible book? You know, like, oh god, there is no comfortable listening experience because the story itself makes me uncomfortable. It's such a nightmare. But just being surrounded with all this nostalgia while I'm in the middle of being like this mechanism of content creation it's pulling me in weird directions, and I feel like I need to take a step back sometime soon, you know, like, because so much of this is just for the hell of it. Like, there's no reason for me to put out this much content. It's totally asinine that I've gotten myself involved in so many things, like that I stacked this podcast on top of, like, you know, pub crawls every week, which is low effort, low on my part, because I just show up and talk, you know, and drink. Though the drinking can be a bit of a commitment. If I get myself drunk, then I'm kind of stuck that way for the rest of the night. But PCP, like, you know, I'm editing them. I don't know why. I don't know why I'm on every episode. I don't need to be. You know, you've got enough people. You can always do it without me. But I always end up showing up and doing that and taking all these other podcast offers and shit and then editing this. And it's so unnecessary, and I don't need to have a vlog out every day, and I don't need to do all this. I've been doing more and more unpaid work, like, for myself. I keep giving myself more things that are, like, something I just post on my Reddit, you know, like, something that has nothing to do with anything, is just a pure passion project, and it's like, I mean, it's cool that this is what I like doing, but I think I need to get a girlfriend. And I started thinking, like, the way I've been thinking about stuff like that is, like, I was seriously contemplating just, like, buying a love doll and being like, I don't, you know, well, if my lifestyle is going to be that I never leave the house and never talk to any other humans, I might as well have some companionship, you know? But it's like, maybe what needs to change is the lifestyle. Maybe I shouldn't be living a life where I do nothing but make videos so often that I can't even talk to other people, you know? Considering I've made no effort in that regard. I haven't even tried. I have not once, like, attempted just talking to someone, you know, or trying to date or something. And I feel like that would be a great distraction. It's a great way to get like, you know, I'm always saying, oh, I need some kind of hobby other than just making videos, you know, like, that would be a good hobby, something to occupy some of that time. As long as it was a healthy relationship, with which God knows how to find one of those, you know. But again, I haven't even tried, so who knows what's out there. Yeah, I just feel like I'm getting too wrapped up in my work. I'm doing too much, as bus driver sang about, way too much, and bogging myself in all this nostalgia is kind of not helping. It's just igniting, like, the way it's reminding me of the artistic passions I had when I was younger that I don't really feel anymore, but I feel like I'm supposed to or something. Like, I feel guilty for not doing more unpaid work, for not doing more like you know, speak from the soul kind of shit, which I really don't need in my life. Like, it's not something I think would be fun to do. It would just be a bunch of bullshit, you know. And I'm editing a book I wrote fucking 6 years ago. That's not even good for some reason. But hopefully, when I'm done with it, that'll all be behind me, and I can get back to whatever I do. I don't know what, like, I don't see any future for myself, like, outside of this. Like, everyone else I know, I think, has this mindset that things are gonna change eventually. You know, like, you're gonna hit a certain amount of money that you're making, or a certain amount of fame, and things are gonna change in some meaningful way. Like, you know, Jesse is trying to save up enough money that he can get himself, like, a nice car and move into his own place and start traveling the country. That's his dream. He wants to see the real America, travel the country. You know, Nate wants to eventually make enough money on his art that he can become a full-time artist. Hippo wants the same thing. Tommy Oliver wants the same thing. You know, he wants to finally release the shackles of being a video maker and having two day jobs and just become a writer. You know, they all want something different from what they have. I'm sure Devu, you know, even though he's comfortable right now editing for me, I'm sure he'd eventually like to be famous on his own terms, you know, and make stuff for himself. I know he wants to be a game developer eventually, or at least he wants to make enough money one day that he can pay people to bring his game ideas to life. You know, all those guys have all these other goals, and all I ever really wanted was to make enough money doing whatever I want that I could continue doing whatever I want. And I'm already there. I don't know where to go from here. There's no higher ceiling than what I've achieved. You know, I already make enough money. I don't need any more. There's nothing I want that's so expensive that I can't afford it, you know. There's no challenge that I've yet to undertake that I feel like, you know, like there's certain video projects I'm working on, but I don't think they're any harder or more relevant than what I did before. Like I kind of feel like after like the Asterisk War series, like I wrote a book in video form. That was kind of my highest echelon of what I thought could be done with analysis videos, and I've already hit it. So from here it's just like, you know, maintaining that level. So it's like there's got to be something else I can do, you know, like not to say that it's kind of like with lifting. Like me and Ben have been lifting, right? And every other day we raise our weight limit. Like we lift every other day, and like we do squats, and it's like today I'm doing 205, so the next time we do squats I do 210, you know, and keep pushing it further so that your muscles keep expanding. And then eventually when you hit your max, that's when you just start doing maintenance. When you just start lifting the same amount just to keep the figure you currently have. And that's where I am. I'm just doing maintenance. I'm just doing reps to keep things the way they are. You know, my Patreon's not really going up significantly anymore. It's just kind of sat in a place. You know, my view counts are not significantly going up. So I'm kind of like, you know, for the last couple months, it's been like, all right, this is how much money I make. You know, this is how many videos I can get out in a month, which is 3 to 5, pretty much. This is the level of quality that me and Devu can achieve. You know, Devu doesn't seem to be trying to like push himself to do like bigger and better editing jobs. You know, if anything, he's more into streamlining it, you know, and trying to get more done in less time. And he's just been spending all his off time watching tons and tons of anime. So, like, yeah, I don't know. I feel stagnant. And I don't... It's weird. I don't want to say, like, I hate it, because I feel fine. You know, everything's fine. It's just that, like, it's weird to not have an image of where things are supposed to go from here. Because I always did before. I always had there's the next peak. There's the next thing I have to get to. And... like, the only thing I really have to be that is money. Like, make more money. Make significantly more money. But I don't need any more money. I don't know what I'm going to do with that money if I get it. My savings are getting ridiculous right now. You know, like, I have a ton of money saved up. I don't need a whole lot more. You know, this past month, November, because I'm recording this on the 30th, like, I had this goal that me and Devu were going to put out 5 videos, because I was like, yeah, we didn't get out that many in the last couple months, you know, so we didn't make a shit ton of money. So this month, let's try to make more money than before. And then, like, we were coming up on the end of the month, and I had the 5th video that we had planned as like a more complicated one than the other ones, and we didn't really have enough time to do it. And at first I was like, all right, we're going to buckle down, and we're just going to work nonstop for 4 days, you know. But then it was like we were already having like complications gathering all the footage, and so I was like, all right, well, you know, let's just put it on. Let's just put that video on hold. I'll just write a shorter video that we can do by the end of the month. And then I was going through like trying to come up with one that would be easy enough to do, and then I was just like, why? I don't even need to. I don't need to. I made enough money on the 4 videos we've already made. There's no need to force myself to make a 5th video, especially when I'm in the middle of editing this audiobook and doing all this other shit. So fuck it. You know, why push myself? Why am I trying so hard when it's not gonna change anything? And that's the thing I don't like. Like, it's not that I feel day-to-day pain. Like, I feel great, but you know, I'm looking at Casey Neistat over here who just canceled his vlog and like moved in this whole, you know, different direction just because he felt like he'd plateaued. And I'm like, that's how I feel, you know, but it's not showing in my work because everything I do is still unique and interesting. And I still really like the videos I'm making. You know, I think everything I'm putting out is great. I think the vlogs are, you know, are always interesting, fresh little ideas. The podcasts show at least somewhat different angles of the same, you know, opinions and stuff. But like, I don't know. I don't know what I'm doing. I think the best solution is not right now. I don't think the solution is take on an even bigger project, because there really is no bigger project that I need to do. What I really need to do is find something else to do, something else to be passionate about. So, you know, like a relationship would be the obvious answer. That's the one that's like, yeah, that'll occupy your time. It's something that, you know, that I probably want. But do I even, for any, like, why even? I don't know. It's so weird. I don't know what else I would want to do, though. There's nothing else that I'm interested in, like, becoming passionate. I don't want to play sports, you know. I don't want to just pick up some random fucking hobby to do. I don't want a day job, because I like my sleep. I like being able to sleep and wake up whenever I want. Even though the last few days I just like straight up slept like for the majority of 2 days. Like I felt weird and shitty because I had eaten something wrong and sat in a chair for too long recording an audiobook for fucking 6 hours, and then I just felt like shit and just kind of passed out for the better part of 2 days. So and the idea that there's no negative consequence for that is almost scary. So I guess that's where I'm at. I'm too comfortable. I need to find something interesting to do with myself other than making videos. But I don't want to stop, you know, none of this is to say I want to stop what I'm doing now. Like, unlike Casey in the vlog, I don't think anything I'm doing has gotten dry. I don't think I need to stop doing vlogs or change the nature of my videos. Like, all those are going fine. I just need another thing. Alright, I'm probably repeating myself at this point, so I'll see you in the next part. Okay, so this is me coming back a few hours later after the previous recording, and I feel at my wit's end when it comes to understanding the world and other people and my place within it. Because I decided, you know, after I said all that stuff in the last part where I was like, hey, you know, maybe I should seek out a relationship, maybe I should start dating. I was like, well, let's just get to it. Let's put my money where my mouth is. Let's go sign up for some dating sites. So I went around and looked at a bunch of them and made some profiles. And I just don't get it at all. Like, none of the parameters that are suggested on a dating site, on any of the ones I looked at, seem like any reason that I'd want to talk to someone. You know, like, their like hobbies and like all this really general information and all this like boring shit. I was just like, none of this makes me interested in a person that I'd want to talk to them, or you know, like, and everyone just looks like aliens to me. I don't know what it is. People, no one looks human to me. All of the women I was looking at, I was just like, you know, something about seeing just a photo of someone, it's like it's not even a person. I don't know. I feel so weird looking at like other humans, especially like just normies. You know, everyone I looked at has this, just looks like a normal person. I don't know how to communicate with normal people. I don't like, when I see someone who looks particularly normal, then I just feel like I would have nothing to talk to this person. Like, I have no idea how I would communicate with a normal looking person, you know? It's a bizarre feeling. I was like, I guess I need to look at some kind of like dating site for weirdos. So then I looked into those, but then everyone there looked weird. So I don't know what the fuck I'm looking for. I don't know how to fill in information on these sites. Everyone that I get matched with seems to have way more interests than I do. I have such a narrow field of interests. Which I guess sounds weird, because like all of my interests are just media consumption, which to like, you know, to people who are into media, I guess that's like a broad range. Oh, you're into anime and comics and movies and all this stuff, but like to me that's kind of all just one umbrella. You know, like if you're filling out stuff on a dating site, that's really just one thing. Like I like movies, and you know, and maybe you could check video games, and maybe art or music, but there's no like, you know, that's like a drop in the bucket of all the things that are listed as like things you could be interested in, and I have no interest in anything else other than eating out. One of the profiles I made, it just made it look like all I care about is eating out, which I guess is fair. I do go out to eat a lot, but like it just felt like that was my only hobby in the world, because it was the only thing I listed as like something I go out to do for fun. I don't even know what kind of human being I want to talk to. I don't know what I'm looking for out of anybody. You know, like, because I don't need any friends. I have enough friends, so I'm just looking for someone to date. But what the hell do I want to talk to them about? What are the parameters? I have no idea. I went through Reddit. I went on all these different dating subreddits where people are talking about dating, but all of their problems are totally unrelatable to me. You know, one of my concerns is like, I mean, I'm like an internet personality guy. You know, like I don't know how to describe myself without talking about the fact that like what I do is I make videos all the time. Like that's who I am. I don't think I have a personality. I think I'm like I think I've reached a point in my life where I just am a thing that appears in videos. You know, like there's no life outside of that. There's no additional me. You know, what I do for decompression time is make a fucking podcast. When I'm not making a podcast, I'm making a podcast. There's nothing left of me. And there's no dating site for girls who are into guys who make podcasts all the fucking time. You know, that's like a I don't know how to be interesting or to find interest in anyone. There's certainly, I don't know any like hot single girls who are into podcasting, you know, like seeking companionship and someone to do podcasts with. Like that's the kind of ad that would grab my eye. Oh god. I found some hilarious dating sites. The funniest one I saw is called Awake Dating, and it's literally for people who are like awake to the truth. It was like basically woke. They should have called it Woke Dating or Stay Woke Dating, because that's literally what it was about. It was hilarious to realize that's a place. But then I thought, I wonder if I need a black-pilled partner. Stay Woke Dating. Oh god. Yeah, I don't know. I don't even know who to talk to for advice about my particular problems, because who else in the world's dating issue is I have no personality outside of the fact that I make podcasts and vlogs, and that's my life, or just like looking for someone to you know, to understand where I'm coming from when I dump dialogue on them for 20 hours a day. I don't know. Alright, well, continuing where I left off, after about just shy of 2 days of trying my hand at the misery that is online dating, where everything's weird and nothing makes sense, and as a guy, you really are fighting a losing battle, because, and I know this to be true not just from women saying it, but from the way I see other guys using dating apps, that women are just constantly getting likes and messages from every guy on the planet. I mean, basically, the way guys use a site like Tinder is just hit like on absolutely everybody, And therefore, with girls, they basically can just take their time and sift through all the guys who've hit like on them and respond to which ones that, you know, they think are attractive or interesting. Read a bunch of articles sort of corroborating this as well, but yeah, that's sort of the phenomenon of internet dating. So for me, it's just a matter of, like, every once in a while happening to stumble upon the 1 out of 30 profiles that I actually think is pretty interesting. I'll be like, huh, this girl's actually kind of cute, and she's got a decently written profile. That's cool. And then I hit like, and then chances are that is the end of my interaction forever. You know, that they're not going to hit like on my picture, especially because I have no good pictures of myself. There are really none that exist. Certainly no current ones that are good. You know, I tried taking some selfies of myself, but I don't know. I personally think I look like a psycho killer in every picture I take of myself. So I'm sure others feel similarly. And yeah, I just feel like there's no odds of getting that swipe back, you know, or getting that response to a message somewhere. But I do think it's fascinating, especially Tinder. Tinder is basically a video game because it's the most simplified version of finding people interesting or attractive, right? It's like you just see a picture, and so immediately you decide based on the first thing you see, like, is this person even, you know, in my wheelhouse of what I'm attracted to? So first you just make that decision right out the gate. If you're unsure, you look at a couple more pictures, and then they typically have like a sentence to a paragraph describing themselves. Often not even. Sometimes they have no information, but at most they have a sentence to a paragraph, and you kind of look at it and you decide, is this person too into dogs or not? Because about 50% of everyone is just way into dogs who's on these sites, and I hate dogs, so I decide whether or not they're too into dogs and then choose whether to hit like or dislike on their profile. It's a little more complex than that, but I feel like it only is for me. I feel like most people don't even make it as far as I do in that decision-making process. And then, like, that's it. You just keep swiping and then do that forever and then see no results. And yeah, it's just a video game. It's like finding out both what your tastes are exactly and how many people in your area fit them, and then doing nothing with the information. That's basically the game that you're playing. So yeah, it's a huge waste of time. I spent like hours swiping in different directions on Tinder. It was a bottomless fucking pit. I never fucking hit the end. I'm pretty sure there's supposed to be a limit to how many likes you have in a day. Never hit it. It started cycling me back through people I'd already swiped on, you know, after a few hours, and I was just like, oh god, this is a fucking hell. You know, looking on the online websites, it's just so weird for me to imagine myself talking to most people. Like, the kind of people who I've spoken to in my life, there's very much a type of person identifiable by sight who I think of as like my people. You know, like, this is the kind of person who I see them and I think that's the kind of person I'm used to talking to, you know? And sometimes someone doesn't quite look like the kind of person I expect myself to talk to, but I read their description and I think, okay, they seem in the wheelhouse of people I've spoken to before, you know, or I think I could find an approach to talk to this person. But it's, you know, it's weird to think that there's such a huge dichotomy between a kind of person I'm used to talking to, which is basically nerds, you know. Nerdy girls tend to look a certain way, even if they're not even to say about like whether they're attractive or not, just like, I don't know, I feel like there's a certain way that people who like go to anime cons or watch YouTube videos look. It's just this, like, and everyone else just looks like a normie to me, you know? And when I see the normie girls, I'm like, I can't imagine having a conversation with someone like this. Maybe it's just a weird, vain kind of, like, metric I'm using, but I don't know. It feels strange. But anyways, in the midst of all this, I thought it would be interesting to talk about the kind of flirting that happens just from being an internet personality. Because I feel like some people who are listening to this must be thinking, surely you have a reach of like hundreds of thousands of people who watch your videos, many of whom are fans of you. Surely some of those people are interested in you romantically. And yeah, let me touch on that subject because it can be interesting. So I'd say pretty much everybody I know who's a content creator or has been for a long enough time has done some kind of flirting with fans of their work or people who watch their stuff and and are interested in them romantically or sexually. I'd say everybody's at least flirted with someone, whether or not they've actually gotten into a relationship before. And half of the PCP has been in relationships with people we met through our work, whether they were fans or just, found out about us through the work, particularly. And if you followed me for long enough, that was what my first and last relationship was like. I was dated a girl for 6 months on the basis that she was a big fan of my work. And she was in the pub crawl chat, and just like I was literally complaining about how I was 23 and had never had a girlfriend, and she was like, "I'll be your girlfriend," and I was like, "Oh, really?" But here's why it can be weird, and I don't get flirted with a lot. Not a lot of girls come out and say anything. I don't know if it's just because they think that, like, because I know there's girls who are interested, and I hear about it sometimes. Cider has told me many times over the years that there's like girls who talk to him about how they like me, but they never talk to me about how they like me. And I don't know if it's just because I'm, somewhat internet famous. Maybe I'm hard to approach, or you're just scared or you think it won't work. But yeah, I rarely get approached. But even when I do, it's super weird because I feel like, and this is what I realized this because of Tinder, because I actually think that aside from the fact that you never get anyone responding to you on Tinder as a guy, I think it has the perfect information that I need to know before I'll talk to somebody, which is, what do you look like, how old are you, and where are you? Those are 3 pieces of information I consider to be crucial before I'm going to even consider, like, approaching you on a romantic level. Because, like, if we're trying to hook up, if we're trying to, test the waters of dating or whatever, then, like, it's kind of important that we're attracted to one another, and, like, you already know what I look like. If someone's messaging me, they know what I look like. I've got 1,000 videos out there, but I have no idea what you look like. And it takes a while. It takes a while of talking to somebody who's like your fan, who's someone who knows you from online, who you're trying to like kind of be polite to because there's someone who likes your work. It takes a while to get to the point where you're like, hey, can I see what you look like? And that's it's also very weird, and it feels terrible to reach that point in the conversation, to get pictures of somebody and then to see, oh, I'm not attracted to this person, and then to try to get your way back out of the conversation. Like, it might sound shallow or something, but I'm sure you all understand what that would be like, to reach that point and then have to kind of backpedal, especially to someone who you don't want to hurt their feelings because they like your stuff, So yeah, that's the first problem, is that people don't tend to just upfront have pictures of themselves. I can guarantee it would feel weird to send someone pictures of yourself randomly, someone you're a fan of and you don't know, and you just send them pictures of yourself. It might seem a little presumptuous, but I promise you, it would be a huge help if someone did that. And then also age, where I've had times where people flirt in my comments and stuff. They'll say things like, oh, Digi, you're so sexy or something, and I'm like, if you're like a 17-year-old, then I'm not gonna like hit you up, like I've had people who seem to be like flirting in the comments, and I'm like, I don't want to approach this if it turns out that this person's underage. I probably won't even date somebody under 21, but if you're under 18, then obviously not, So like that's the second thing that makes it weird. And then location, because the last relationship I was in, the girl lived in Montana at the time. You know, anytime we actually wanted to see each other, that was a $400 round trip plane ticket. So, you know, at the time I was inexperienced and didn't mind, but in retrospect I was like, I don't want to be in a relationship where just actually spending time together costs an enormous sum of money. You know, like, it feels like the relationship is tied to spending a shit ton of money just to hang out. And that's why, and then also, like, you end up, like, way overcompensating for the fact that you don't see each other that often in person by constantly seeing each other online. And that's excessive, you know. I don't want relationships where I end up in Skype conversations all day, which is what happened last time, you know. So, like, that's why, even though it seems like, you know, you'd think, well, I have a huge audience, some of those people must be interested, but, like, it's just that I don't know anything about anybody, you know. I don't know anything about the people who post, like, one little flirtatious line, you know, maybe hoping I'll follow up on it, but it's like, you have way more information about me than I do about you. You just constantly hear me at my most interesting, at my best, you know, doing podcasts, talking about myself, learning everything about my life and what I'm up to and what my interests are. You don't need any icebreaker from me, but I know absolutely nothing other than the vague sense that maybe you're not joking about being interested, you know, which even then I have no idea when people are joking. And I get lots of attention from men as well, you know, like, I've had plenty of gay guys who talk about how hot I am, so I don't want to pursue you only to find out that you're not even a woman, or anything, you know. There's a thousand ways. A troll, you could just be a troll, you know. As someone who's known on the internet, plenty of people want to troll me. It was funny too, there was stuff like an anime dating site, and I was like, it would be tempting to go on here because I think it's funny that it's like a site that matches you based on your taste in anime, but I was like, everyone on here would know who I am, or they could easily find out, you know. People who know me from my videos and think of me as like a mimetic character might be on here, you know. It might try to troll me or something, and it's just a huge waste of time. So yeah, that's why it's really weird to try and pursue these kinds of relationships. And I'm not saying, you know, don't. I'm saying, I mean, if you want to send me messages where you actually say, hey, I'm being completely legitimate, here's 3 pictures of me at my age and location, that would be greatly appreciated. And it would be fucking hilarious if it worked, because then it would prove that the only game I have is complaining about how I don't have a girlfriend online. That would mean that that's the only way I know how to get relationships, which would be sad and hilarious. But I don't know, I'd be okay with it. Because it's not working out any other way. Yeah. So I was giving some thought to why exactly I'm so frustrated with all this. Like, with this whole online dating thing. Because, I mean, 2 days ago, I felt totally fine about whatever I was doing. I think I did. I don't remember. But but once I started this, I started feeling just totally down and depressed and upset. And I think it's just a matter of, like, putting effort into something that has absolutely no tangible or evident benefit, and in which I feel completely out of my depth, which is not something I'm used to. I'm used to things that I can do and immediately understand the benefits, right? Like a vlog. I come up with an idea for a vlog, I record it instantly, post it online instantly, get, you know, the reaction I want instantly. I'm used to lots of that. Like, I have a very confident approach to everything I do in my life. I know exactly what I'm gonna get out of it, and how much work it'll take to reach the finish line, you know, and there's always that exact, like, feeling of I'm doing something I know what to do, know how to do, and I can do it and know everything about it, and feel the payoff. But with this, it's just like throwing stones at a barn blindfolded, and trying to hit the blind side of a barn, literally blind. I don't know exactly what the blind side of a barn is. Yeah, and I just don't know what I'm doing. So it's like I have no idea if I'm even going in the right direction with anything I'm posting. Like, am I just totally off base with the pictures I'm choosing, or the descriptions I'm writing, or by even attempting this, am I on the completely wrong websites? You know, I've been doing tons of research. Like, my approach to something like this is find every Reddit board with any information about this, find every article about this, figure out exactly what I'm doing, and I've come to basically no conclusions. So that's what's so frustrating about it. And I was thinking about how there would be ways to make it, like, if it wasn't for the fact that all these websites and stuff ask questions or base their stuff on parameters that, like, don't mean a lot to me, that's kind of part of the issue. Like, for instance, these sites will always have something like, you know, what are some of your favorite books and movies and TV shows and stuff? And, like, to me, that's not a very helpful question, because at best we're gonna have like one or two things we both like. Oh boy, you know, like maybe it'll give me something to talk about, like, oh, you like Rick and Morty, I like Rick and Morty, that's cool. But like, it doesn't really cut to the heart of the matter, which is how much do you care about TV and movies and books? You know, like, you can have a favorite book that you read 5 years ago and you don't really think about it or talk about it. You just list it when the topic of favorite books comes up. What it should really say is, like, how often do you read? How much do you like books? You know, how much does your favorite media mean to you? Then we have an idea of where this is going. You know, like, if I bring up that book, are you gonna be like, oh my god, someone to talk about this book with? You know, like, when I list out this stuff, I always go really basic, because you would think, well, Digi's got a million favorites, surely he'll list all of them. But to me, it's like, no one cares. That's the way I see it. Like, who would possibly care that I like these 500 different fucking, you know, anime shows? Most people never heard of any of them, you know? So I usually just post, like, I like a lot of anime, you know, like, basically all anime, I think is what I listed on one profile. Like, you know, it's a huge difference between I like this show and I care about this show. And I think a lot of the answers on these websites could be more like that. You know, like, they say, like, do you like food? It's like, yeah, everybody likes food. Everybody likes going out to eat. How often do you go out to eat? How much money do you spend when you go out to eat? These are questions I want to know. You know, because, like, me and my friends go out to eat all the time. Almost, you know, as often as I can, I take somebody out with me. But most of my friends are cheap. You know, most of my friends don't spend as much on food as I do. So, you know, that determines where we're going and what we're doing. You know, if you like to eat out every single day, probably I'm not going to always pay for every meal we have together. But if we eat out all the time, then that would be super cool. It'd be interesting. Like, how much, not just how much money do you make, but how much do you spend on food? Is there anybody who eats out as often as I do? Another question. What's your sleep schedule? Now, I know that for most people, the answer will probably be the same. But for someone like me, I'm currently recording this at 3 o'clock in the morning, and I, like, just woke up like an hour ago after a series of weird, and all I've been doing for the last 2 days, other than dating sites, is, like, sleeping and jacking off intermittently. It's just been, like, this nonstop back and forth. Wake up for, like, an hour, jack off, fall back asleep. It's just been, like, constant. Ever since a few days ago. So before even this whole thing started, it's just been the last few days for me. So when are you awake? How often are you awake? What times are you most active? Do you prefer to go out and hang out at noon, or do you prefer to hang out at night, or do you prefer to hang out at 3 in the morning? Do you actually find things to do at 3 in the morning? You know. These are all the kind of questions I want the answers to in a dating profile. How about how many times per day do you leave the house, or per week, per month, to go do a thing? Like, do you like to go out with other people or by yourself? Because I like to go out every day with other people if I can. You know, me and Victor, anytime Victor's home, we're either going to go to lunch or we're going to go check out, like, the bookstore or the comic store. Just, like, I want to get out of the house, and I don't like going out alone, you know, so I prefer to snatch up Ben or Devu and be like, hey, I'm going to this place. You want to come? You know, even if it's just like a short drive, who wants to come with me? You know, are you into that person on dating profile? How often do you leave the house with other people? How often do you go to just, you know, frivolously spend money on food to do something that's not sit at home, you know? Or do you have much more exciting things you go out and do that are unbeknownst to me that I don't even realize exist, you know? I've had there's like 2 people, well, only one who I actually messaged, but there were 2 people on OkCupid who I had like a decent match percentage with, and one of them had said, like, it said like, what's your typical Friday night? And she said, going to a place where I can, like, a place with good beer and a little personality, where they play good music at a volume where you can have a conversation over it. And I was like, where the hell did she find a place like this in Virginia Beach? I messaged her and said like, hi there. Where did you find a place that has all these characteristics in Virginia Beach? Haven't gotten a response yet, but I'm legitimately curious. I'd love to go somewhere that has beers and decent music. You know, her musical taste seemed more similar to mine than you know, what's typical, which is why I don't go to bars. I love the concept of a bar. Go to a place, have them serve you awesome, interesting alcoholic beverages, and hang out with other people and listen to music. Sounds great, except every bar just blasts shitty music at the highest possible volume, and you can't talk to anybody, and I don't want to hear that music. Would love to know these places these people are finding that I don't know about. One girl had a bunch of pictures of her doing rock climbing on like legit cliffs. I was like, where the fuck are you finding these cliffs in Virginia Beach? It's a flat plain. Are you driving out to the mountains to do this? Real curiosity. So yeah, maybe everybody else knows a much more fun and exciting version of this town than I do. That's what I'm always suspecting, you know. I mean, Ben Saint moved in and he thinks this place is hell. He was like, there's nothing to do here. This place is just a wasteland. It's a hellhole. And I kept assuring him, like, I know there's stuff to do here because other people who live here do stuff. Most people who live in Virginia Beach seem to be happy here. It's just that the stuff that they do is not stuff I want to do. Most people go to the beach. I don't like the beach. Most people go to clubs and bars. Don't like clubs and bars, you know. There's a million clubs and bars in this town. There's definitely things to do. I'm just not sure, you know, what they are where, and a lot of them are expensive things to do. You know, there's lots of like little fun. You could go canoeing out on the river, you could go paddleboarding or something, you can go fishing. There's a lot of water here. There's a lot of water-based activities. There's hiking areas. There's ultimate frisbee golf and shit. But all that's like, you know, you have to spend money to do any of that shit. Indoor trampoline gyms and indoor rock climbing, bowling everywhere, laser tag. All things you have to pay money for. So probably not something that, I think Ben's more looking for like hipster coffee shop I can sit down at, you know, or something. But I don't know. There's not a lot that is of interest to me or seemingly him around here. So whatever everybody else is doing, I'd love to know it. Love to know where they're going and why they find it appealing. But personally, I can't say I understand it myself. And that really makes me think, you know, I've been talking a lot about moving all the PCP here to Virginia Beach. And the only real reason for it to be Virginia Beach over where anybody else lives is that I personally have the most stability in my income and housing situation. And I've already got Ben and Devu living here for like really low rent compared to what it would be if we were trying to, you know, get our own place. You know, and of course that rent is also split between both of my brothers and Shade's girlfriend. So like, you know, it makes sense because we have a good housing situation with good rent. And, you know, Devu works for me anyways, so he's basically best wherever I am. And like no one else, like we don't want to move out to where Jesse is because he lives in the middle of bumfuck nowhere in a town even smaller than ours. You know, Nate lives in Ohio, but he's not really from there, so even he's not really connected there. because he's originally from Michigan, which both Ben and Nate are both from, not Michigan, I meant Massachusetts. Ben and Nate are from like outside Boston, and Ben kind of misses where he was from, but I do feel like we should eventually just move this whole operation. Like, we moved into this house because my parents wanted to keep the house. You know, they wanted to give us our own place while simultaneously not having to give up their house. That was sort of the whole dream with getting with the whole setup we have right now, is don't have to sell the house that we've been living in for 7 years and done all this work on, and you know, don't have to uproot everybody and move them around. You know, Shade's got his girlfriend who he wants to stay around. Victor's got his girlfriend he wants to stay around. They're not trying to like move out and get into all this other shit. But eventually, Victor's gonna probably move in with Hope. I don't know what Shade and Amber will do, but like, I don't know if moving, like, I want everyone in one place, but this doesn't have to be the place, because it really doesn't seem like Virginia Beach has anything to offer us, and that's becoming more and more clear to me over time. Where, like, for instance, you know, even though my lifestyle has me indoors like all the time and not really talking to anybody, I feel like there must be in other cities people I could actually hang out with, communities I could be a part of, you know, like people I could see in real life, or places I could go and do things. You know, if we lived in New York City or something, which I don't know if I'd want to live in New York City because it's, you know, grossly overpopulated and there's just too many. I don't want to live like surrounded on all sides by people and things and sounds and shit, you know. If there's anything I've learned from Casey Neistat vlogs, is that the sound pollution is terrible. You're constantly, there's always some weird shit going on. It probably wouldn't be a great recording environment unless I like created a whole fucking studio. But nonetheless, like, this maybe is not the place to keep this going. It's a great place for getting everybody in one spot, but only for us to work together. There's nothing outside of this group, you know, which I kind of always had it in my head that was okay, that like, well, we're all going to be working together, so we should all be, you know, like, who else do we possibly need to talk to other than one another? But then it's like, yeah, but what about all the time you're not working, you know? That's the time I've kind of left unaccounted for. And for a really long time, I had this like romantic idea in my head of exploring everywhere in Virginia Beach, like, because I didn't, you know, because I kind of saw myself as like a spokesperson for the town. Like, I live here. It's important to me that I am a part of this place. I grew up here. You know, I'm gonna be the guy who represents this city or something, or be the most interesting thing to come out of this town. And so I should explore it and find out all that's here. And now I feel like I have, and there's nothing here. You know, I feel like I've done the exploring. I'm sure there's some stuff I haven't seen yet that's interesting, but like, on a day-to-day basis, there's nothing here I want to be doing. You know, I've been to all the cool restaurants. That's over. You know, I've been to all the comic stores. I've been to all the game shops and the record stores and the bookstores and all the things that interest me. And there's not a whole lot left. I don't want to hang out down at the beach strip where it's a 25-minute drive to everything being overpriced, and there's not as much down there as I first thought. Like, when I used to think that like there's all this stuff down at the beach, and I just haven't really gone down there. But then like I've driven around there, not really anything but bars and clubs. So, you know, maybe this town just isn't meant for the procrastinators. Maybe we're gonna end up setting up base somewhere else. And I mean, like, we don't really know where yet. So, you know, if I don't want anybody to put down on a lease here or something, and then get trapped in a house for a year, and then we're all kind of stuck. But at the same time, I don't want us to just pack up and go to some other town without thinking about it, you know. But especially if it's going to be even more expensive, which Virginia Beach is not a cheap place to live, but if we're trying to move somewhere even cooler, then it just means the rent's going to be even higher, you know. So I don't know where we could go that we could all live in one place and it would still be inexpensive and also cool. But maybe we'll find out. I certainly would like to. Alrighty, well, I think I'll just keep this one short. Kind of stuck to one topic, or at least one train of thought through the whole thing, so, you know, might as well keep it as it is. It's a bit late anyways, a few days late. Maybe the next one will not be a whole week before it comes out. Who knows? Who knows how much decompression I'll have to do between now and then. I hope you enjoy the new song choice. I know it's a real crowd pleaser, so you'll probably all be into it. And enjoy it, and have a nice day.